The woman's scream pierced through the thunder as flames began licking at the twisted metal of her car. Nathan could smell the gasoline mixing with smoke, and he knew he had maybe 30 seconds before the whole thing went up. Her dark hair was matted with blood, her beautiful face cut and bruised, and she wasn't moving anymore. The driver's side door was completely crushed, but the passenger side was damaged just enough that he might be able to get her out. "Might. Stay with me," he whispered even though she couldn't hear him. "I'm going to get you out of there." Nathan had been driving home from his construction job when the storm hit. The rain was coming down so hard that his windshield wipers couldn't keep up, and visibility was almost zero. He was thinking about getting home to his 8-year-old daughter Emma, who was probably worried about him being late, when he saw the headlights swerve across the median and slam into the oak tree just 50 feet ahead of him. The impact had been so violent that it echoed through the storm. Nathan pulled over immediately, grabbing his emergency flashlight from the glove compartment. As he ran toward the wreckage, he could see steam and smoke rising from under the crumpled hood. The front of the expensive-looking sedan was wrapped around the massive tree trunk like paper. Now, as he tried to wrench open the passenger door, his hands were shaking. Not from the cold rain that was soaking through his work clothes, but from the knowledge that someone's life was literally in his hands. The door groaned and gave way with a sharp crack. The woman inside was slumped over the center console, unconscious and bleeding from a gash on her forehead. "Come on," Nathan muttered, reaching across her to unbuckle the seatbelt. She was petite but completely limp, making it difficult to maneuver her out of the cramped space. Her expensive-looking clothes were torn and dirty, and she wore jewelry that probably cost more than Nathan made in 3 months. But right now none of that mattered. She was just a human being who needed help. The smell of gasoline was getting stronger. Nathan could hear the engine making dangerous clicking sounds that meant time was running out. He managed to get his arms under her shoulders and knees, lifting her as carefully as he could while still moving quickly. She moaned softly, which Nathan took as a good sign. At least she was alive. He carried her about 20 feet from the car before setting her down gently on the wet grass. Her breathing was shallow but steady. Nathan pulled out his phone and dialed 911, his fingers barely working in the cold and rain. 911, what's your emergency? There's been a bad car accident on Highway 47, about 2 miles south of the Miller Road exit. Single vehicle hit a tree. I've got an unconscious woman here who's badly hurt. The car looks like it might catch fire. Sir, are you injured? No, I'm fine. I just pulled her out of the car. She's breathing but she's not waking up. There's blood on her head and I think her arm might be broken. Emergency services are on their way. Stay on the line with me. Can you tell me about her injuries? Nathan looked down at the woman lying on the ground beside him. In the glow of his flashlight, he could see that she was probably in her early 30s, with smooth brown skin and delicate features. Even injured and unconscious, there was something elegant about her. Something that seemed familiar, though he was sure he'd never seen her before. She's got a cut on her forehead that's bleeding pretty bad, Nathan reported. Her left arm is definitely hurt, maybe broken. She's wearing a seatbelt so that probably saved her life, but the impact was really bad. Is she conscious at all? No, she hasn't opened her eyes since I got her out. Nathan checked his watch. It had been almost 5 minutes since the crash. How long until the ambulance gets here? They should be there in about 8 minutes. Sir, I need you to keep talking to her, even if she can't respond. Sometimes people can hear even when they're unconscious. Nathan looked down at the stranger he just risked his life to save. Hey, he said softly, help is coming, okay? You're going to be fine. What's your name? Can you tell me your name? The woman's eyelids fluttered slightly, and Nathan felt a surge of hope. But instead of opening her eyes, she just made a small sound that might have been a word. Nathan leaned closer, trying to hear her over the storm. Rebecca? She whispered, so quietly that Nathan almost missed it. The name hit Nathan like a physical blow. Rebecca was his wife's name. His late wife, who had died in a car accident 2 years ago. But this woman wasn't Rebecca. Rebecca had been gone for 2 years now, and this woman looked nothing like her. Rebecca had been pale with blonde hair and blue eyes. This woman was African American with dark hair and brown eyes. It had to be a coincidence. What did you say? Nathan asked, but the woman had gone quiet again. In the distance, Nathan could hear sirens approaching. The sound was the most beautiful thing he'd heard all day. As the ambulance and fire truck pulled up with their lights flashing, Nathan stayed beside the woman, holding his jacket over her to keep the rain off her face. Sir, we'll take it from here, one of the paramedics said, but Nathan didn't want to leave her side. For some reason he felt responsible for her now. He'd pulled her from that wreck and he needed to know she was going to be okay. Can I ride with her to the hospital? Nathan asked. The paramedic looked at him curiously. Are you family? No, I'm the one who pulled her out of the car. I want to make sure she's okay. Sorry, family only. But you can follow us to General Hospital if you want. As they loaded the woman onto a stretcher, Nathan caught a glimpse of her purse in the wreckage. It had been thrown clear of the car during the impact. He grabbed it quickly, thinking she'd need her identification and insurance information when she woke up. The fire department was already working on the car, spraying foam to prevent any chance of fire. Nathan stood there in the rain, watching the ambulance disappear into the night with its lights flashing. His clothes were soaked through and he was shivering, but he couldn't stop thinking about what the woman had said. Rebecca. It had to be a coincidence. But as Nathan got back in his truck to follow the ambulance to the hospital, he couldn't shake the feeling that this accident was going to change his life in ways he couldn't imagine. The drive to the hospital gave Nathan time to think. He should call Emma's babysitter and let her know he'd be late. He should probably go home and change out of his wet clothes. But something was pulling him toward that hospital, toward the mysterious woman who had whispered his dead wife's name. When Nathan arrived at the emergency room, the woman was already being taken back for treatment. The receptionist told him that since he wasn't family, he couldn't get any information about her condition. But Nathan decided to wait anyway. He called Mrs. Patterson, the elderly neighbor who watched Emma after school, and explained that he'd be late. Don't worry about Emma, Mrs. Patterson said. She's already had dinner and she's working on her homework. You do what you need to do. Nathan sat in the uncomfortable hospital chair for 3 hours, still wearing his damp work clothes. Every time a doctor or nurse came through the emergency room doors, he looked up hopefully. Finally, around midnight, a doctor approached him. Are you the man who pulled the woman out of the car accident? Yes, that's me. How is she? She's stable. She has a concussion, some cuts and bruises and a fractured wrist, but nothing life-threatening. She's very lucky you were there. Is she awake? Can she remember what happened? The doctor shook his head. She's conscious now, but she seems to have some memory problems. That's not unusual with a head injury. She can't remember her name or what she was doing before the accident. Nathan felt his heart sink. Will her memory come back? In most cases, yes. It might take days or weeks, but usually people recover from this type of amnesia. The problem is we can't find any identification. Her car was registered to a rental company, and there was no purse found at the scene. Nathan realized he still had her purse in his truck. Actually, I found her purse. It was thrown from the car during the crash. I brought it with me. The doctor's face brightened. That's excellent. If you could bring it in, we might be able to identify her and contact her family. Nathan went out to his truck and retrieved the expensive leather purse. It was damp but intact. As he handed it to the doctor, he wondered what secrets it might hold about the mysterious woman who had called out his wife's name. The next morning, Nathan called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. He couldn't stop thinking about the woman from the accident, and he needed to check on her. Emma was safely at school, so Nathan drove back to the hospital with a strange mixture of anxiety and anticipation in his chest. At the information desk, he learned that the woman had been moved to a regular room on the 3rd floor. Her name, according to the identification found in her purse, was Sophia Williams. She was 31 years old, with an address in California. The hospital had tried calling the emergency contacts listed in her phone, but the numbers were disconnected or went to voicemail. Nathan took the elevator to the 3rd floor, carrying a small bouquet of flowers he'd picked up in the hospital gift shop. He felt foolish. He didn't even know this woman, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to be there for her. Room 312 was quiet when Nathan knocked softly on the door frame. Sophia was awake, staring out the window at the gray morning sky. In the daylight, with her injuries cleaned and bandaged, she was even more beautiful than Nathan had realized. Her dark skin had a warm undertone that seemed to glow even in the harsh hospital lighting, and her eyes were a rich brown that reminded him of coffee. "Excuse me," Nathan said quietly. "I'm Nathan. I'm the one who pulled you out of your car yesterday." Sophia turned to look at him, and Nathan saw confusion and fear in her expression. "I'm sorry, I don't remember much about yesterday. The doctors told me I was in an accident, but everything is so fuzzy." "That's okay," Nathan said, stepping into the room. "The doctors say your memory should come back gradually. I brought you these." He held out the flowers, feeling awkward. A small smile crossed Sophia's face, the first real expression Nathan had seen from her. "Thank you. That's very kind. Please sit down." The nurses tell me you saved my life. Nathan sat in the chair beside her bed, still holding his baseball cap in his hands. I just did what anyone would do. How are you feeling today? Like I was hit by a truck, Sophia said with a slight laugh that made Nathan's heart skip. There was something musical about her voice, something that seemed familiar. My head hurts and my wrist is in this cast, but the doctors say I'm very lucky. They said the car was badly damaged. It was wrapped around a tree. If you hadn't been wearing your seatbelt? Nathan didn't finish the sentence. Sophia nodded slowly. I keep trying to remember what happened, but it's like there's a wall in my mind. The last thing I clearly remember is being on an airplane, but I don't know where I was going or why. Your purse had a California driver's license. Were you visiting someone here? I honestly don't know. Sophia looked frustrated. The doctors showed me my identification, but even seeing my own name written down doesn't feel real. It's like looking at someone else's life. Nathan felt a wave of sympathy for her. He couldn't imagine how terrifying it must be to wake up in a strange place with no memory of how you got there. Is there anything I can do to help? Do you need me to call someone for you? The hospital tried the numbers in my phone, but nobody answered. I think I might have been traveling alone. Sophia's voice was small and uncertain. What about family? Parents, siblings? Sophia closed her eyes, concentrating. I can't remember. Sometimes I think I hear voices like people I should know, but I can't put faces to them. She opened her eyes and looked at Nathan. Can I ask you something? Of course. Yesterday when you found me, did I say anything? Anything at all? Nathan hesitated. He wasn't sure if he should tell her about the name she'd whispered. You were pretty out of it. You might have said a word or two, but nothing clear. Sophia nodded, looking disappointed. I was hoping maybe I'd said something that would give me a clue about who I am or why I was here. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, with Sophia picking at the flowers Nathan had brought. Finally she spoke again. Tell me about yourself, Nathan. You must have a family wondering where you are. I have a daughter. Emma. She's 8. Nathan's face softened when he talked about Emma. Her mother died 2 years ago, so it's just the two of us now. I'm sorry, Sophia said gently. That must be very difficult. It was. It still is sometimes. Emma asks about her mom a lot, especially at bedtime. Rebecca. That was my wife. She used to tell Emma these elaborate bedtime stories with princesses and magic horses. Rebecca, Sophia repeated, and Nathan noticed that she said the name with an odd inflection, like she was testing how it felt in her mouth. Emma would love to meet you, Nathan continued. She's been asking about the lady from the accident since I got home last night. She wanted to know if you were okay. She sounds sweet. What's she like? Nathan smiled. She's incredible. Smart, funny, stubborn like her mother. She loves art and horses and she wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up. She's got this imagination that just won't quit. I'd like to meet her sometime, Sophia said, and Nathan was surprised by how much he wanted that to happen. Actually, I was thinking of bringing her by tomorrow after school if you're up for visitors. She made you a get well card. I'd love that, Sophia said, and her smile was genuine and warm. A nurse came in to check Sophia's vital signs and give her medication. While the nurse worked, Nathan found himself studying Sophia's face. There was something about her expressions, the way she tilted her head when she was thinking, that seemed familiar. But he couldn't place where he might have seen her before. Mr. Carter? The nurse addressed Nathan. Are you planning to stay much longer? Ms. Williams needs to rest. Of course, Nathan said, standing up. I should get going anyway. I need to pick up Emma from school. Will you come back tomorrow? Sophia asked, and Nathan heard something hopeful in her voice. Absolutely. Emma and I will be here around 4 o'clock if that works for you. I'll be here, Sophia said with a small laugh. I'm not going anywhere for a while. As Nathan walked toward the door, Sophia called out to him. Nathan? Thank you. For everything. I know I don't remember the accident, but I know you risked your life to save me. I won't forget that. Nathan felt his cheeks warm. Get some rest, Sophia. We'll see you tomorrow. On the drive to Emma's school, Nathan couldn't stop thinking about Sophia. There was something about her that drew him in, beyond just feeling responsible for her well-being. She had a grace about her, even lying in a hospital bed with bandages on her head. And that laugh, it was like music. Nathan picked up Emma from Lincoln Elementary, and as usual, she chattered non-stop during the drive home about her day. But when they pulled into their driveway, Emma got serious. Daddy, how is the lady from the accident? Is she going to be okay? She's going to be fine, sweetheart. She's in the hospital resting, and her injuries are healing. Does she remember what happened? Nathan turned off the engine and looked at his daughter. Emma had Rebecca's blonde hair and blue eyes, but she had inherited Nathan's stubborn streak and protective nature. No, baby. She hit her head pretty hard and she can't remember things right now. The doctors say her memory should come back, but it might take some time. That's so sad, Emma said, unbuckling her seatbelt. What if she can't remember her family? What if she's lonely? Well, that's actually something I wanted to talk to you about. I was thinking maybe we could visit her tomorrow after school. You know, just to make sure she's okay and maybe cheer her up a little. Emma's face lit up. Really? Can we bring her something? Like cookies or flowers? That's a great idea. What do you think she might like? Emma was quiet for a moment, thinking hard. I made her a card at school today. And maybe we could bring her some of Mom's books? Mom always said reading was the best medicine when someone was sad or hurt. Nathan felt his throat tighten. Emma rarely mentioned Rebecca's belongings anymore, and the fact that she wanted to share them with a stranger showed how big her heart was. I think that's a wonderful idea, Em. Your mom would be proud of how thoughtful you are. That evening, as Emma worked on her homework at the kitchen table, Nathan found himself looking through the photo albums that Rebecca had put together during their marriage. He hadn't opened them in months, it was still too painful most days. But something about meeting Sophia had stirred up memories he'd been keeping buried. Rebecca had been a teacher and a photographer, always documenting their life together. The albums were full of pictures of their wedding, their honeymoon, Emma as a baby, family vacations, birthday parties. Nathan stopped at a picture of Rebecca laughing at Emma's second birthday party. She was throwing her head back with joy, completely unself-conscious and beautiful. That laugh. Nathan stared at the photo, trying to place why Sophia's laugh had seemed so familiar. It was probably just his imagination, he told himself. Grief sometimes made you see connections that weren't really there. But as Nathan closed the photo album and got ready for bed, he couldn't shake the feeling that meeting Sophia Williams was going to change everything. The next afternoon, Nathan and Emma walked through the hospital corridors carrying a small care package they'd put together. Emma had insisted on bringing homemade chocolate chip cookies, 3 of Rebecca's favorite books, and the Get Well card she'd made in art class. Nathan carried a small potted plant, thinking Sophia might like something living to brighten up her room. Remember, Em, Nathan said as they approached room 312, Sophia is still recovering from her injuries, so we should keep our visit short and not tire her out too much. I know, Daddy. I'll be good. Emma was practically bouncing with excitement. They knocked on the door and heard Sophia's voice call for them to come in. When they entered, Nathan was pleased to see that Sophia looked much better than she had the day before. She was sitting up in bed wearing a hospital gown, but someone had brought her a soft pink robe that made her look less like a patient and more like herself. You must be Emma, Sophia said with a warm smile. Your daddy has told me so much about you. Emma suddenly became shy, hiding behind Nathan's legs. But her curiosity quickly won out, and she stepped forward with the card in her hands. I made this for you, Emma said quietly. To make you feel better. Sophia accepted the card with genuine delight. It was decorated with crayon drawings of flowers and rainbows, and in Emma's careful 8-year-old handwriting, it read, Get well soon. From your new friend Emma. P.S. My daddy is a hero. This is the most beautiful card I've ever received, Sophia said, and Nathan could tell she meant it. Thank you so much, Emma. And your daddy is definitely a hero. Emma beamed and immediately became more talkative. We brought you cookies. I made them myself. Well, Daddy helped, but I did most of the mixing. And we brought you some books because reading makes everything better. What kind of books? Sophia asked, accepting the paper bag Emma offered. These were my mom's favorites, Emma said matter-of-factly. She's not here anymore, but she always said books were like friends that you could visit whenever you wanted. Nathan felt his chest tighten at Emma's casual mention of Rebecca, but Sophia handled it beautifully. Your mom sounds like she was very wise, Sophia said gently. I would be honored to read her favorite books. What were they about? Emma launched into detailed descriptions of each book while Nathan arranged the flowers and plant on Sophia's bedside table. He found himself watching the interaction between Emma and Sophia with fascination. Emma was usually shy around new adults, but she seemed completely comfortable with Sophia, chattering away like they were old friends. Daddy says you can't remember things right now, Emma said with the blunt honesty of a child. That must be really scary. It is a little scary, Sophia admitted. But meeting you and your daddy has made me feel much less alone. When I'm scared, I think about all the people who love me, Emma said seriously. Maybe that would help you too. I bet there are lots of people who love you even if you can't remember them right now. Nathan saw tears well up in Sophia's eyes, and he knew Emma had touched something deep inside her. You're a very smart little girl, Sophia said. And very kind. Your parents raised you well. Just my daddy now, Emma said simply. But he's really good at being both a mom and a dad. Nathan felt his face grow warm at the praise, but Sophia was looking at him with something that might have been admiration. I can see that, she said softly. They visited for about an hour with Emma doing most of the talking. She told Sophia about school, her friends, her art projects, and her dream of becoming a veterinarian. Sophia listened with genuine interest, asking questions and laughing at Emma's funny stories. When it was time to leave, Emma surprised everyone by giving Sophia a gentle hug. Will you still be here tomorrow? Emma asked. I think so, Sophia said. The doctors want to keep me for a few more days to make sure I'm healing properly. Good. I want to come see you again. Maybe I can bring more of my mom's books. I would love that, Sophia said. As they walked back to the parking garage, Emma was unusually quiet. Finally, she looked up at Nathan with serious eyes. Daddy, I really like Sophia. I can tell. You two seem to get along great. She seems lonely though. Like she doesn't have anybody to take care of her. Nathan nodded thoughtfully. Emma had always been perceptive about people's emotions. What if she can't remember her family when she gets out of the hospital? Emma continued. Where will she go? I'm sure the doctors and social workers will help her figure that out, baby. But what if they can't? What if she doesn't have anywhere to go? Nathan could see where this conversation was heading, and he wasn't sure how to respond. Emma had a big heart, sometimes bigger than was practical. We can't solve everyone's problems. We can be kind to Sophia and support her while she's recovering, but we have to let the professionals handle the rest. Emma was quiet for the rest of the drive home, but Nathan could tell she was thinking hard about something. That evening, while Emma was taking her bath, Nathan's phone rang. It was the hospital. Mr. Carter? This is Dr. Williams from General Hospital. I'm calling about Sophia Williams. Is she okay? She's fine medically, but we have a situation. We've been trying to contact her family and friends using the information in her phone and purse, but we're not having any luck. Her emergency contacts seem to be outdated, and we can't reach anyone who knows her. Nathan felt a sinking feeling in his stomach. What does that mean? Well, we're planning to discharge her in 2 days. Her injuries are healing well and she doesn't need to stay in the hospital any longer. But we need to discharge her to someone's care. She can't drive with her wrist in a cast, and her memory issues make it unsafe for her to be completely alone. What are her options? There are some transitional care facilities that might accept her, but honestly, most of them are quite expensive and not very pleasant. We were hoping to find a family member or friend who could help her for a few weeks while she recovers. Nathan found himself saying the words before he'd fully thought them through. What if I helped her? There was a pause on the other end of the line. Are you family, Mr. Carter? No, but I'm the one who pulled her from the accident. I feel responsible for her well-being. And I have a spare bedroom. My daughter and I could help her until she gets her memory back and figures out her situation. That's very generous, but I have to ask, do you really know what you're offering? Caring for someone with memory issues can be challenging, especially when you have a young child to consider. Nathan thought about Emma's questions in the car, about Sophia having no one to take care of her. He thought about how comfortable Emma had been with Sophia, and how Sophia had seemed to genuinely enjoy Emma's company. Let me talk to my daughter and think about it overnight, Nathan said. Can I call you back tomorrow morning? Of course. And Mr. Carter? What you're considering is very kind. Not many people would open their home to a stranger. After Nathan hung up, he sat in his living room thinking about what he'd just offered. It was crazy, really. He had enough on his plate being a single father, working full-time and trying to keep his own life together. The last thing he needed was the responsibility of caring for a woman with amnesia. But something about Sophia drew him in. Maybe it was the way she'd connected with Emma so naturally. Maybe it was the gratitude in her eyes when she looked at him. Or maybe it was just that he'd been lonely for 2 years, and Sophia's presence reminded him what it felt like to have adult companionship. Daddy? Emma appeared in the doorway in her pajamas, her wet hair combed back from her face. Who was on the phone? It was the hospital calling about Sophia. Emma's eyes widened with concern. Is she okay? She's fine. But the doctors can't find her family, and they need to discharge her from the hospital soon. She needs somewhere to stay while she recovers. Emma was quiet for a moment, processing this information. Then she climbed onto the couch next to Nathan. She could stay here, Emma said simply. It's not that simple. Taking care of someone who's recovering from an injury is a big responsibility. But we have the extra bedroom. And I could help take care of her. I'm good at helping people feel better. Nathan looked at his daughter's earnest face and felt his heart swell with pride. Even at 8 years old, Emma had more compassion than most adults. What do you think your mom would say about this? Nathan asked. Emma considered this seriously. I think Mom would say that when someone needs help and you can help them, you should. She always said our family was good at taking care of people. Nathan pulled Emma into a hug, amazed once again by her wisdom. You're right about that, baby. Your mom always had room in her heart for people who needed help. So can we ask Sophia to stay with us? Just until she remembers where she belongs? Nathan made his decision in that moment, though later he would wonder if his heart had made it long before his head caught up. Yes, he said. We can ask her. Emma squealed with delight and hugged Nathan tight. This is going to be great, Daddy. I know it is. As Nathan tucked Emma into bed that night, she was already making plans for Sophia's stay with them. We can put fresh flowers in the guest room, Emma said sleepily. And I can show her my art projects. And maybe she can help me with my homework. And we can make her favorite foods, once she remembers what they are. Those are all wonderful ideas, Em. But remember, Sophia is still recovering from her injuries. We need to be patient with her and not overwhelm her. I know, Daddy. I'll be really good. I promise. As Nathan turned off Emma's light and closed her bedroom door, he wondered what he'd just gotten himself into. But for the first time in 2 years, his house didn't feel quite so empty. 2 days later, Nathan and Emma drove to the hospital to bring Sophia home with them. The word home felt strange in Nathan's mind. This woman was essentially a stranger, even though she didn't feel like one anymore. Over the past few days, he'd visited her every evening after work while Emma did homework in the hospital cafeteria, and Emma had insisted on coming by every day after school. Sophia was waiting for them in the lobby, wearing the clothes she'd been wearing during the accident. They'd been cleaned and mended, but Nathan could still see the places where they'd been torn. She carried a small bag with the few personal items that had survived the crash, and she looked nervous. Thank you for this, she said as Nathan took her bag. I know it's a lot to ask, letting a stranger stay in your home. You're not a stranger, Emma said firmly, taking Sophia's good hand. You're our friend. Sophia smiled, but Nathan could see worry in her eyes. I just feel so useless. I can't remember anything about my life. I can't drive. I can't even pay you back for your kindness because I don't know anything about my finances. Don't worry about any of that right now, Nathan said. Your only job is to rest and heal. Everything else will work itself out. The drive to Nathan's house was quiet except for Emma's chatter about all the things she wanted to show Sophia. Nathan lived in a modest 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood, with a small yard and a front porch where Emma liked to play with her dolls. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. This is perfect, Sophia said as they pulled into the driveway. It looks so peaceful. Nathan carried Sophia's bag to the guest room while Emma gave her the grand tour. The house was clean but lived in, with Emma's artwork covering the refrigerator and family photos scattered throughout the living room. Nathan had tried to put away most of the pictures of Rebecca before Sophia's arrival, not wanting to make her feel uncomfortable, but a few remained. This is your room, Emma announced, opening the door to the guest bedroom. Nathan had put fresh sheets on the bed and placed a small vase of flowers on the dresser. The room was simple but welcoming, with a window that looked out onto the backyard. It's beautiful, Sophia said, sitting on the edge of the bed. I can't thank you enough for this. Are you tired? Nathan asked. You should probably rest after the trip from the hospital. Actually, I feel pretty good. The doctors said light activity would be good for me as long as I don't overdo it. Can I show you my room? Emma asked excitedly. I'd love to see it. Emma's bedroom was exactly what you'd expect from an 8-year-old girl who loved art and horses. The walls were covered with her drawings and stuffed animals lined the shelves. But the thing that caught Sophia's attention was a framed photo on Emma's nightstand. Is this your mom? Sophia asked, picking up the photograph. It showed a beautiful blonde woman with bright blue eyes, laughing as she held a much younger Emma. That's my mom, Rebecca, Emma said proudly. She was really pretty, wasn't she? Sophia stared at the photo for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Nathan watched her carefully, noticing how her hands seemed to tremble slightly as she held the frame. She was very beautiful, Sophia said softly. You look just like her. Daddy says I have her eyes but his stubborn streak, Emma giggled. Sophia handed the photo back to Emma, but Nathan noticed that her movements seemed uncertain, like she was struggling with something. "Are you okay?" Nathan asked. "I'm fine," Sophia said quickly. "Just tired, I think. Maybe I should rest for a little while." Nathan showed Sophia back to her room and left her to settle in. But as he started preparing dinner in the kitchen, he couldn't stop thinking about the way Sophia had reacted to Rebecca's photo. It was probably nothing. Maybe seeing the picture had just reminded her of her own lost memories. That evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Nathan and Sophia sat on the front porch drinking tea. The night was warm and quiet, with crickets chirping in the distance. "Thank you again for opening your home to me," Sophia said. "I don't know what I would have done without your help." "You don't have to keep thanking me," Nathan replied. "Emma and I are happy to have you here. She's a special little girl. Rebecca must have been an amazing mother." Nathan nodded, feeling the familiar ache in his chest when he talked about his late wife. "She was. Emma was only 6 when Rebecca died, but she remembers so much about her mom. Sometimes I worry that I'm not enough for her." "You're doing a wonderful job," Sophia said firmly. "Emma is happy and confident and kind. That doesn't happen by accident." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. Finally, Sophia spoke again. "Nathan, can I ask you something?" "Of course. How did your wife die?" Nathan was quiet for a moment. Even after 2 years, it was still difficult to talk about. "Car accident. She was driving home from work during a rainstorm, and she lost control of the car. Hit a tree on Highway 47, actually not far from where I found you." Sophia went very still. "Highway 47? Yeah. It's a dangerous stretch of road when the weather's bad. Too many curves and not enough lighting." Was she alone?" "Yes. She was coming home from a parent-teacher conference at Emma's school. She called to say she was running late, and that was the last time I talked to her." Nathan glanced at Sophia and was surprised to see tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to make you sad by asking." "It's okay. Sometimes it helps to talk about her." But Sophia seemed lost in thought, staring out at the darkness with a troubled expression. The next morning, Nathan woke up early to get ready for work. He'd taken several days off to help Sophia get settled, but he needed to get back to the construction site. As he made coffee in the kitchen, he was surprised to find Sophia already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with her purse open in front of her. "You're up early," Nathan said. "I couldn't sleep," Sophia replied. "I keep having these dreams that feel like memories, but I can't make sense of them." Nathan sat down across from her and noticed that she had various items from her purse spread out on the table. Her wallet, some receipts, a small notebook, and what looked like a piece of jewelry. "I thought maybe if I looked through my things again something might trigger a memory," Sophia explained. "Any luck?" Sophia held up a small silver locket. "I found this in the bottom of my purse. I must have missed it before." Nathan examined the locket. It was delicate and expensive looking, with an intricate design engraved on the front. "Does it open?" Sophia nodded and carefully opened the locket. Inside was a tiny photograph of a woman who looked remarkably similar to Sophia, but with lighter skin and different features. "Do you recognize her?" Nathan asked. "I don't know," Sophia said, frustrated. "She looks familiar, but I can't place her. Maybe a sister or cousin?" Nathan studied the photo more closely. There was something about the woman's smile that seemed familiar to him too, though he couldn't figure out why. "There's something else," Sophia said, picking up the small notebook. "Look at this." She opened the notebook to a page filled with what appeared to be addresses and phone numbers. One entry caught Nathan's attention immediately. Rebecca Carter, 1247 Maple Street. Nathan felt his blood run cold. That was his address. And Rebecca Carter had been his wife's name before she married him. "Sophia," Nathan said carefully, "where did you get this notebook?" "It was in my purse. I must have written these addresses down for some reason." Sophia looked at the page Nathan was staring at. "Wait, that's your address. And that name." "Rebecca Carter was my wife's maiden name," Nathan said quietly. Sophia's face went pale. "I don't understand. Why would I have your wife's name and address written down?" Nathan's mind was racing. First, Sophia had whispered Rebecca's name at the accident scene. Then she'd reacted strangely to Rebecca's photo. Now they'd found Rebecca's information in Sophia's notebook. "Sophia, I need to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer." "Okay." "At the accident scene before the ambulance arrived, you said something. You said Rebecca. Do you remember that?" Sophia shook her head. "I don't remember anything from the accident. But you've been having dreams." Could some of those dreams be memories of Rebecca? Sophia closed her eyes, concentrating. I keep dreaming about a woman with blonde hair. She's laughing and she's calling my name. But in the dream she calls me Sophie, not Sophia. Nathan felt his heart start to race. Sophie? Yes. And in the dream we're children playing in a backyard somewhere. There's a swing set and a big oak tree. What else do you remember from these dreams? The woman, she's older than me but not by much. She's protective of me like a big sister would be. And she's always laughing. She has this beautiful laugh that makes everyone around her happy. Nathan stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the kitchen floor. I need to show you something. Wait here. He went to his bedroom and pulled out one of Rebecca's photo albums. The one that contained pictures from her childhood. He'd never looked through it carefully before, but Rebecca had mentioned having a younger sister who had been estranged from the family. Nathan flipped through the pages quickly, looking for any photos that might include Rebecca's sister. Near the back of the album he found what he was looking for, a section labeled Family Photos that contained pictures Rebecca had inherited from her mother. There, in a photo dated about 25 years ago, were two young girls playing on a swing set in a backyard. One was clearly Rebecca, maybe 10 years old, with her distinctive blonde hair and blue eyes. The other was a younger girl, maybe 7 or 8, with dark hair and warm brown skin. The younger girl was Sophia. Nathan stared at the photo, his hands shaking. Rebecca had mentioned her sister Sophie a few times over the years, always with sadness in her voice. There had been some kind of family dispute when they were teenagers, and Sophie had moved away to live with relatives. Rebecca had tried to reconnect with her sister several times, but Sophie had never responded to her letters or calls. Rebecca always wondered what happened to her little sister, Nathan whispered to himself. He took the photo album back to the kitchen, where Sophia was still sitting with her purse contents spread out on the table. Sophia, Nathan said gently, I think I know who you are. He opened the album to the page with the childhood photo and placed it in front of her. Sophia looked at the picture and gasped. Her good hand flew to her mouth, and tears started streaming down her face. That's the dream, she whispered. That's exactly the dream I keep having. Sophia, I think you're Rebecca's sister. Her younger sister Sophie, who she lost touch with years ago. Sophia stared at the photo, and Nathan could see recognition dawning in her eyes. Sophie, she said softly. Yes, that's right. My name is Sophie. Rebecca called me Sophie. Can you remember anything else? Rebecca, Sophie said, and her voice was full of pain. My big sister Rebecca. She tried to contact me a few years ago, but I was angry about something. Something from when we were kids. She looked up at Nathan with anguish in her eyes. Where is she? I came here to find her, to apologize for being so stubborn. Where is Rebecca? Nathan felt his heart break as he realized what he had to tell her. Sophie, Rebecca is gone. She died 2 years ago in a car accident. Sophie's face crumpled and she began to sob. No. I was supposed to tell her I was sorry. I was supposed to explain. She can't be gone. Nathan moved around the table and put his arms around Sophie as she cried. I'm so sorry, he said. I'm so sorry you came all this way to find her. I waited too long, Sophie sobbed. I was too proud, too stubborn. And now she's gone and I can't tell her that I loved her. Nathan held Sophie while she grieved, understanding now why he'd felt such a strong connection to her from the moment he'd pulled her from that wreckage. She was Rebecca's sister. She was Emma's aunt. She was family. And she'd been driving to find them when she'd crashed on the same stretch of road where Rebecca had died 2 years earlier. The next few days were emotional for everyone in the house. Sophie's memories were returning in fragments, sometimes triggered by a smell, a sound, or a photograph. Nathan had given her all of Rebecca's photo albums, and she spent hours looking through them, remembering their childhood together. We used to put on shows for our parents, Sophie told Emma one afternoon as they sat in the living room looking through pictures. Rebecca would write these elaborate plays and I would be the star. She always said I was the performer in the family. Emma was fascinated by these stories about her mother's childhood. What happened? Why didn't you see each other anymore? Sophie's face grew sad. We had a fight when I was 16. It was about something silly, I can't even remember what started it. But our parents took Rebecca's side, and I felt like nobody understood me. So I went to live with our aunt in California. Did you miss her? Every day, Sophie said quietly. But I was too proud to admit it. Rebecca tried to reach out to me over the years, especially after she got married and had you. But I always thought there would be time to make things right later. Nathan watched these conversations from the kitchen where he was making dinner. He could see how much Emma was learning about her mother, and how much comfort Sophie was finding in sharing these memories. But he could also see the pain in Sophie's eyes every time she talked about the lost years. "Sophie," Emma said one evening, "I'm glad you came to find us even if it was too late to see Mommy. Now I have an aunt." Sophie hugged Emma tightly. "And I have the most wonderful niece in the world." As the days passed, Nathan found himself looking forward to coming home from work. The house felt alive again in a way it hadn't since Rebecca's death. Sophie was naturally domestic, insisting on helping with cooking and cleaning despite her injured wrist. She had a gift for making ordinary moments feel special, turning dinner into a celebration, making bedtime stories into theatrical performances, finding beauty in Emma's simple art projects. "You don't have to do all this," Nathan told her one evening as she put the finishing touches on an elaborate dinner she'd prepared. "You're supposed to be resting and recovering." "I need to feel useful," Sophie replied. "You and Emma have given me so much. Let me give something back." "You being here is enough," Nathan said, and he meant it. Sophie looked at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Nathan, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you think Rebecca would be happy that I'm here? That I'm getting to know Emma?" Nathan considered the question carefully. "I think Rebecca would be thrilled. She talked about you sometimes, always with love and sadness. She never stopped hoping you'd come back into her life. I wish I could tell her I'm sorry." "I think she knows," Nathan said gently. That night, after Emma had gone to bed, Nathan and Sophie sat on the front porch as had become their habit. The evening was warm, and the scent of jasmine from the neighbor's garden filled the air. "My memories are almost completely back now," Sophie said. "The doctors were right, they just needed time." "How do you feel about that?" "Grateful." "Sad." "Confused." Sophie was quiet for a moment. "I remember why I came here. I inherited some money from our grandmother, and I realized that life is short. I wanted to find Rebecca and make things right between us." "You inherited money?" Sophie nodded. "Quite a bit, actually. Our grandmother left everything to Rebecca and me, but since Rebecca was gone..." She trailed off. "Sophie, you don't have to talk about this if you don't want to." "No, I want you to know. I want you to understand why I came here." Sophie turned to face him. "I'm wealthy, Nathan. Very wealthy. But money doesn't mean anything when you don't have family to share it with." Nathan wasn't sure how to respond to this revelation. He'd never thought much about Sophie's financial situation, but learning that she was wealthy made him feel strangely uncomfortable. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to know that I'm not staying here because I have nowhere else to go. I'm staying because I want to be here with you and Emma. You're my family now." Nathan felt his heart skip a beat at her words. Over the past 2 weeks, he'd found himself thinking about Sophie more and more. She was beautiful, intelligent, funny, and wonderful with Emma. But he'd been telling himself that his feelings were just gratitude and protectiveness. Learning that she was wealthy somehow made his feelings seem more real and more complicated. "Sophie, I know this is probably not the right time to say this," Sophie continued, "but I need you to know how I feel. I'm falling in love with you, Nathan. I'm falling in love with your kindness, your strength, the way you love Emma, the way you've taken care of me." Nathan stared at her, his heart pounding. "Sophie, you've been through a trauma. You're still recovering. These feelings might just be gratitude or..." "No," Sophie interrupted. "I know the difference. I've never felt this way about anyone before. And I can see in your eyes that you feel something too." Nathan couldn't deny it. "I do," he said quietly. "I do feel something. But this is complicated. You're Rebecca's sister. Emma's aunt. I don't want to mess up something that's important for Emma. What if it could be something that's good for Emma? What if we could be a real family?" Before Nathan could respond, they heard the front door creak open. Emma appeared in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "I can't sleep," she said. "I keep thinking about Mommy and wishing she could meet Aunt Sophie." Sophie opened her arms, and Emma climbed onto her lap. "I wish I could have met your Mommy too," Sophie said softly. "But in a way I do know her. She's in you, Emma. Every time you laugh or draw a picture or tell a story, I see my sister." "Do you think Mommy would want you to stay with us forever?" Emma asked. Sophie and Nathan exchanged a look over Emma's head. "What do you think?" Sophie asked Emma. "I think Mommy would want us to be a family," Emma said simply. "I think she would want me to have a mom again, and she would want Daddy to be happy." Nathan felt tears prick his eyes. Out of the mouths of babes. "I think you're right," Sophie said, hugging Emma close. "I think your Mommy would want us to take care of each other." As Nathan carried a sleepy Emma back to her bed, He realized that his life was about to change in ways he'd never imagined. He was falling in love with his late wife's sister, and somehow, that felt like the most natural thing in the world. The next morning, Nathan woke up with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. Sophie's revelation about her feelings, combined with Emma's innocent wisdom, had clarified something in his mind. But before he could fully embrace these new emotions, he needed to understand more about Sophie's past and what had brought her to their town. "I want to help you piece together what happened before the accident," Nathan told Sophie over breakfast. "There might be clues we haven't found yet." Sophie nodded, though she looked nervous. "I remember most of my life now, but there are still gaps around the time of the accident. I remember being in California, making the decision to come here. I remember booking a flight and renting a car. But I don't remember the actual drive or what I was thinking right before I crashed." "Let's start with what you do remember," Nathan suggested. "What made you decide to come here after all these years?" Sophie poured herself another cup of coffee, her movements careful because of her cast. "I got a letter from a lawyer about our grandmother's estate. When I found out Rebecca had died, I felt like my world collapsed. I realized I'd wasted so much time being angry about something that didn't even matter anymore." "What were you angry about?" Emma asked, looking up from her cereal. Sophie smiled sadly. "You know how sometimes you have a fight with a friend over something silly, and then you're both too proud to say sorry first?" Emma nodded. "That's what happened with your mom and me. We had a disagreement when I was young, and instead of talking it out, we both just stayed mad. For years and years." "That's silly," Emma said matter-of-factly. "Yes, it was very silly," Sophie agreed. "And I came here to tell your mom I was sorry and to meet you." Nathan had been listening carefully to this conversation, and something was bothering him. "Sophie, how did you know where to find us?" "Rebecca's maiden name was Carter, but she'd been married to me for 9 years when she died." "How did you know to look for Nathan and Emma?" Sophie frowned, concentrating. "I hired a private investigator. I gave him Rebecca's information and he found out about her marriage, her family, where she lived. He gave me your address and told me." She paused, looking troubled. "Told you what?" "He told me about the accident. He's the one who told me Rebecca had died. And he told me about you and Emma." Sophie's eyes widened as a memory surfaced. "He said something else, something that upset me." "What was it?" "He said Rebecca had been trying to find me for years. He said she'd hired investigators too, trying to track me down. She'd been looking for me." Sophie's voice cracked. "All those years I thought she didn't care, she was actually trying to find me." Nathan felt his throat tighten. Rebecca had never mentioned hiring investigators, but it made sense. She'd always regretted losing touch with her sister. "There's more," Sophie continued, her voice becoming stronger as the memories returned. "The investigator gave me copies of letters. Letters Rebecca had written to me over the years but never sent because she didn't know where I lived." "Letters?" Emma asked excitedly. "What did they say?" "They were beautiful," Sophie said, tears in her eyes. "She wrote about her life, about marrying your daddy, about having you. She told me about your first steps, your first words, your first day of school. She wrote about how much she missed me and how she wished I could meet her daughter." Nathan stood up abruptly and walked to the window, overwhelmed by emotion. The thought of Rebecca writing letters to her lost sister all those years, documenting Emma's childhood for someone who might never read them, was almost too much to bear. "Where are the letters now?" he asked quietly. "They were in my rental car," Sophie said. "I don't know if they survived the accident." "We should check with the police," Nathan said. "They might have recovered personal items from the wreckage." That afternoon, while Emma was at school, Nathan and Sophie went to the police station. Officer Martinez, who had responded to the accident scene, was helpful and sympathetic. "We did recover some items from the vehicle," he told them. "Most of the paperwork was damaged by the rain, but we dried everything out and stored it in case the driver came to claim it." He brought out a box containing Sophie's belongings from the car. Inside were water-damaged but readable papers, rental car agreements, flight information, and a manila envelope containing what looked like letters. Sophie opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside were about 20 letters, all written in Rebecca's careful handwriting. The dates ranged from just after Sophie had left home to just a few months before Rebecca's death. "She never stopped writing to me," Sophie whispered, looking through the letters. "Even when she didn't know where I was, she kept writing." Nathan picked up one of the letters and read the first few lines. "Dear Sophie, Emma took her first steps today. She's only 10 months old, but she's already showing signs of being as stubborn as you were. I wish you could see her." "Sophie," Nathan said gently, "these letters are for you. Rebecca wrote them for you. You should read them in private. But Sophie shook her head. No, I want you to read them too. You're part of this family now. These letters are part of Emma's history, part of understanding who her mother was. Officer Martinez cleared his throat. There's something else. We found evidence that Ms. Williams had been driving very slowly before the accident, like she was looking for something. There were no skid marks indicating she tried to brake before hitting the tree. What does that mean? Nathan asked. It means she wasn't speeding or driving recklessly. It appears she was distracted, maybe trying to read addresses or looking for a specific location. Sophie nodded slowly. I remember now. I was looking for your house. I had the address written down, but it was dark and raining and I couldn't see the street signs clearly. I was driving slowly trying to find Maple Street. The accident happened on Highway 47, Nathan said. That's about 2 miles from our house. I must have gotten confused in the storm, Sophie said. I was probably trying to find my way back to the main road when I lost control of the car. Nathan felt a chill run down his spine. Sophie had crashed on the same stretch of road where Rebecca had died, in the same kind of storm while looking for their house. The parallels were almost too much to believe. Sophie, he said quietly, I think Rebecca was watching out for you that night. I think she made sure I was there to find you. Sophie looked at him with tears in her eyes. Do you really think so? I know so, Nathan said firmly. There's no other explanation for why I was driving on that exact stretch of road at that exact time. I never take Highway 47 to get home from work. But that night something made me take a different route. Something made me be there when you needed help. Officer Martinez handed them the box of recovered items. Take your time going through everything. And Ms. Williams, I'm glad you're recovering well. You're very lucky to have people who care about you. As they drove home, Sophie clutched the box of letters to her chest. Nathan, I'm scared to read these. What if they make me even more sad about losing her? Or what if they help you feel closer to her? Nathan suggested. What if they help you understand how much she loved you, even when you were apart? That evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Nathan and Sophie sat in the living room reading Rebecca's letters together. They were beautiful, funny, heartbreaking, and full of love. Rebecca had documented every important moment of her life, from her wedding day to Emma's birth to the small, everyday moments that made up a family's life. In the last letter, dated just 3 months before Rebecca's death, she had written, Dear Sophie, I don't know if I'll ever find you, but I'm not giving up. Emma asks about you sometimes. She's seen your picture in my old photo albums. I tell her about her Aunt Sophie, who was the bravest, smartest, funniest person I knew. I tell her that someday you'll come back to us and we'll be a complete family again. I love you, little sister. I never stopped loving you. Rebecca. Sophie was crying as she finished reading the letter. She never gave up on me, she whispered. No, Nathan agreed, putting his arm around her. She never did. And I think she would be so happy to know that you're here now, that you're part of Emma's life. Sophie leaned into Nathan's embrace, and for the first time in weeks she felt truly at peace. The investigation had answered the questions about her past, but more importantly, it had shown her that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. I'm home, she said softly. Yes, Nathan replied, kissing the top of her head. You're home. The next few days passed in a comfortable rhythm. Sophie had fully integrated into their daily routine, helping Emma with homework, cooking dinner, and sharing stories about Rebecca's childhood. But Nathan noticed that Sophie seemed to be holding something back, like there was more to her story that she hadn't shared yet. His suspicions were confirmed when Sophie asked him to sit down for a serious conversation after Emma had gone to bed. Nathan, there's something I need to tell you about my financial situation, Sophie began, her hands nervously folding and unfolding in her lap. Sophie, you don't have to. Yes, I do. If we're going to move forward together, you need to know everything about who I am and where I come from. Nathan settled back in his chair, giving her his full attention. When I said I inherited money from our grandmother, I wasn't completely honest about how much. Sophie took a deep breath. I inherited $12 million. Nathan stared at her, trying to process this information. 12 million? Our grandmother was very wealthy. She owned a lot of property in California and she invested wisely. When she died, she left everything to Rebecca and me equally. Since Rebecca was gone, I inherited her portion too. Nathan stood up and walked to the window, his mind racing. $12 million was more money than he could even imagine. It changed everything, or did it? Sophie, why didn't you tell me this before? Because I was afraid it would change how you saw me. I was afraid you'd think I was just some rich woman playing house with you and Emma. Nathan turned back to face her. Is that what you're doing? Playing house? No. Sophie stood up quickly, her eyes flashing with emotion. Nathan, I gave up everything to come here. I sold my house in California, quit my job, cut ties with the life I'd built there. I came here because I wanted to find my family, and I stayed because I fell in love with you and Emma. What kind of job did you have? I was an art teacher and a freelance graphic designer. I had a small apartment in San Francisco and a quiet life. I wasn't living like a millionaire because I didn't want to be defined by my money. Nathan sat back down, trying to organize his thoughts. Sophie, I need you to understand something. I'm a construction worker. I make a decent living, but I'll never be wealthy. I live paycheck to paycheck, and I worry about things like Emma's college fund and whether I can afford to fix the roof when it starts leaking. And I need you to understand that none of that matters to me, Sophie replied. I don't care about money. I care about family, about love, about being part of something real. But it does matter, Nathan said. If we're together, people will think I'm with you for your money. They'll think I'm some kind of gold digger. Sophie's face fell. Is that what you think? No, of course not. But Sophie, this changes things. You could have any life you want. You could travel the world, live in a mansion, never work again. Why would you want to be with a single dad in a small town? Because this is where I belong, Sophie said firmly. Because Emma is my niece and you're the man I love. Because this house feels more like home than anywhere I've ever lived. Nathan was quiet for a long moment, processing everything she'd told him. Finally he spoke. Sophie, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Anything. Did you come here looking for us because you felt guilty about the money? Because you thought you owed Rebecca something? Sophie's eyes widened. What? No, Nathan, that's not. Because if you're here out of guilt or obligation, that's not fair to any of us. Emma deserves better than that. Nathan, stop. Sophie's voice was sharp. You're being ridiculous. I came here because I wanted to find my sister and make things right between us. I stayed because I fell in love with you and Emma. The money has nothing to do with it. Doesn't it? You could set up a trust fund for Emma, pay for her college, make sure she never wants for anything. Isn't that part of why you're here? Sophie stared at him, hurt and anger warring in her expression. You think I'm trying to buy your love? Buy Emma's love. I think you're a good person who feels guilty about the past, and I think you're trying to fix things the only way you know how. And I think you're scared, Sophie shot back. I think you're scared to be happy again, scared to let someone new into your life. So you're looking for reasons to push me away. Nathan felt like he'd been slapped. That's not fair. Isn't it? You've been finding reasons to doubt this relationship since the moment I told you I had feelings for you. First it was because I'm Rebecca's sister. Then it was because of my memory loss. Now it's because of my money. What's next, Nathan? They stared at each other across the living room, both breathing hard. Nathan realized that Sophie was right, he was scared. Scared of being happy, scared of moving on from Rebecca, scared of giving his heart to someone who might leave. You're right, he said quietly. I am scared. Sophie's anger melted away, replaced by understanding. I'm scared too. I'm scared that you'll decide I'm not worth the complication. I'm scared that Emma will get tired of having me around. I'm scared that I'll mess this up the way I messed up my relationship with Rebecca. Sophie, Nathan said, moving closer to her, you didn't mess up your relationship with Rebecca. You were kids when you had that fight. You were both too young and too proud to know how to fix it. But I could have tried harder. I could have reached out to her. And she could have tried harder too. It takes two people to maintain a relationship, and it takes two people to let one fall apart. Sophie looked up at him with tears in her eyes. So what do we do now? How do we move forward? Nathan took her hands in his. We start by being honest with each other. No more secrets, no more holding back. If we're going to do this, we do it with everything on the table. Okay, Sophie said. What do you want to know? Everything. I want to know about your life in California, about your work, about your plans for the future. I want to know how you see us fitting together. Sophie smiled for the first time since their conversation had started. I want to know the same things about you. I want to know about your fears, your dreams, your hopes for Emma's future. They talked until almost 2 a.m, sharing their hopes and fears, their dreams and disappointments. Nathan learned that Sophie had been lonely in California, that she'd built a successful career but had never found the kind of love and connection she'd been seeking. Sophie learned that Nathan had been struggling with guilt about moving on from Rebecca, that he'd been worried about Emma's need for a mother figure but afraid to let anyone get too close. I think Rebecca would want us to be happy, Sophie said as they finally prepared to go to bed. I think she would want Emma to have a complete family again. I think you're right, Nathan agreed. But Sophie, I need you to know that if we do this, it's not because of your money. It's because I love you for who you are, not what you have. And I need you to know that my money doesn't change how I feel about you, Sophie replied. It's just a tool we can use to build a good life together, to make sure Emma has opportunities and security. Nathan nodded, feeling more at peace than he had in days. So what happens now? Now we figure out how to be a family, Sophie said. All three of us together? As Nathan lay in bed that night, he thought about the conversation they just had. Sophie's wealth was intimidating, but her honesty and vulnerability had convinced him that her feelings were genuine. And maybe, just maybe, they could build something beautiful together. In the morning he would talk to Emma about the future. He would make sure she understood that Sophie might become a permanent part of their family. And then, if Emma was happy with the idea, he would ask Sophie to marry him. For the first time in 2 years, Nathan fell asleep thinking about the future instead of the past. The next morning, Nathan woke up with a sense of clarity he hadn't felt in months. His conversation with Sophie the night before had cleared the air between them, and he knew what he needed to do. But first he wanted to talk to Emma about everything that had been happening. After Sophie had left to run errands, Nathan sat Emma down at the kitchen table with hot chocolate and her favorite cookies. I need to talk to you about something important. Emma looked up from her cookie, immediately serious. Is everything okay, Daddy? Everything is fine. But I need to know how you feel about Sophie being here with us. I love having Aunt Sophie here, Emma said without hesitation. She makes everything more fun and she tells me stories about Mommy that I never heard before. How would you feel if Sophie stayed with us permanently? Like forever? Emma's eyes widened with excitement. You mean like she could be my new mom? Nathan felt his heart squeeze. Would you want that? Yes. Emma practically shouted. I love Sophie and I think Mommy would want me to have someone to take care of me. Sophie makes you smile again, Daddy. You haven't smiled like that since Mommy died. You're very observant, little one. Mrs. Patterson says I get that from Mommy. Emma took a sip of her hot chocolate. Daddy, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you love Sophie? Nathan was quiet for a moment, considering how to answer. Yes, I do love Sophie. Good, Emma said matter-of-factly. Because she loves you too. I can tell by the way she looks at you when you're not watching. Nathan laughed, amazed by his daughter's wisdom. How did you get so smart? Good genes, Emma said with a grin that reminded Nathan so much of Rebecca. That afternoon, when Sophie returned from her errands, Nathan was waiting for her on the front porch with a bouquet of wildflowers he'd picked from their backyard. What's this for? Sophie asked, accepting the flowers with a smile. For being you, Nathan said. For being brave enough to come here looking for your sister. For staying when you found us instead. For loving Emma like she's your own daughter. Sophie's eyes filled with tears. Nathan. I talked to Emma this morning about our future together. She's completely on board with you staying permanently. And what about you? What do you want? Nathan took Sophie's hands in his. I want you to stay. I want us to be a family. I want to marry you, Sophie Williams. Sophie gasped, dropping the flowers. Are you proposing to me? I don't have a ring yet and this isn't very romantic, but yes. I'm proposing. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to give Emma the mother she deserves. I want to build something beautiful with you. Sophie threw her arms around Nathan's neck, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes. Yes, of course I'll marry you. Nathan spun her around on the porch, both of them laughing like teenagers. When he set her down, they were both breathless and grinning. Are you sure about this? Sophie asked. Are you sure you're ready to move forward? I've never been more sure of anything in my life, Nathan replied. Rebecca will always be part of our family, but she's gone. You're here and you're real and I love you. Just then, Emma burst through the front door, having heard their conversation through the window. Are you getting married? She demanded. Yes, Sophie said, scooping Emma up in a hug. Your daddy just asked me to marry him. Finally, Emma said. I was wondering when you two were going to figure it out. Nathan and Sophie looked at each other and burst into laughter. Leave it to an 8-year-old to put things in perspective. That evening, the three of them sat around the dinner table planning their future together. Emma had approximately 1,000,000 ideas for the wedding, ranging from horses as bridesmaids to a castle-shaped cake. I think we should keep it simple, Sophie said gently. Maybe something small and intimate with just the people who matter most to us. That sounds perfect, Nathan agreed. What about timing? When would you like to get married? Soon, Sophie said. I don't want to wait. We've already lost so much time. What about next month? Nathan suggested. That would give us time to plan something nice but not so much time that we overthink it. Can we have the wedding here? Emma asked. In our backyard? That way it will feel like a real family celebration. Sophie and Nathan exchanged glances. I think that's a wonderful idea, Sophie said. As they continued planning, Nathan found himself marveling at how natural this all felt. Sophie fit into their family like a piece of a puzzle they hadn't realized was missing. She challenged him, supported him, and loved Emma with a fierce protectiveness that reminded him of Rebecca. Sophie, Nathan said as they cleaned up from dinner, I want you to know that I don't expect you to try to replace Rebecca in Emma's life. Emma will always remember her mother, and that's important. I would never try to replace Rebecca, Sophie replied. She was Emma's mother and she'll always be special. But I hope I can be something new and different for Emma. Not a replacement, but an addition. Like how some families have a mom and a stepmom? Emma asked, having overheard their conversation. Exactly like that, Sophie said. I'll be your Aunt Sophie who became your stepmom. And I'll love you just as much as any mom could. Emma hugged Sophie tightly. I love you too, Aunt Sophie. And I think Mommy would be happy that you're taking care of Daddy and me. Later that night, as Nathan and Sophie sat on the porch looking at the stars, Sophie brought up a subject they hadn't discussed yet. Nathan, I want to talk about the financial situation again. Nathan tensed slightly. Sophie, we settled that last night. I know, but I want to make sure you understand what this means for Emma's future. With the inheritance, we can make sure she has every opportunity possible. College, graduate school, travel, whatever she wants to pursue. I appreciate that, but I want Emma to grow up understanding the value of hard work and earning her own way. I completely agree, Sophie said. But there's no reason she should struggle financially the way we did. We can give her security while still teaching her responsibility. Nathan nodded slowly. You're right. I just want to make sure the money doesn't change who she is as a person. It won't, Sophie said confidently. Emma has too much of Rebecca's spirit and your strength to let money corrupt her. What about us? How do we handle being a mixed-income couple? Sophie was quiet for a moment, thinking. I'd like to put most of the money in trust funds and investments. We can live comfortably but not extravagantly. I want our life to be about family and love, not about what we can afford to buy. That sounds reasonable, Nathan said. And Sophie? I want to contribute to our household financially. I want to keep working and supporting my family, even if we don't technically need my income. I wouldn't want it any other way, Sophie replied. Your work is part of who you are. And Emma needs to see both of us contributing to our family in our own ways. As they talked through the practical aspects of their future together, Nathan felt more and more confident that they could make this work. Sophie wasn't trying to change his life with her money, she was trying to enhance it. There's one more thing, Sophie said as they prepared to go inside. I want to do something special for Rebecca's memory. Maybe set up a scholarship in her name for aspiring teachers, or fund an art program at Emma's school. Nathan felt his eyes fill with tears. She would love that. Rebecca always believed in education and helping kids reach their potential. Then that's what we'll do. It will be our way of keeping her memory alive and honoring the sister I lost. As they walked into the house together, Nathan realized that their love story wasn't just about him and Sophie. It was about healing old wounds, honoring lost love, and building something new from the pieces of their past. Rebecca would always be part of their family, but now Sophie would be too. And for the first time since Rebecca's death, Nathan felt like his family was complete. 2 weeks later, as wedding preparations were in full swing, Sophie received a phone call that would bring the final pieces of her story together. Nathan was at work, and Emma was at school when Sophie's phone rang with a California number she didn't recognize. Hello? Miss Williams? This is Detective Rodriguez with the San Francisco Police Department. I've been trying to reach you about your apartment. Sophie felt a chill run down her spine. My apartment? What about it? Ma'am, we received a call from your landlord about a break-in. It appears someone searched your apartment thoroughly, though nothing valuable seems to have been taken. A break-in? Sophie sat down heavily at the kitchen table. When did this happen? About a week ago. Your landlord has been trying to reach you. He said you left suddenly without giving proper notice, and he was concerned about your welfare. Sophie's mind raced. She had left California in a hurry, driven by grief and determination to find Rebecca. She'd barely taken time to pack, let alone give proper notice to her landlord. Detective Rodriguez, do you have any idea who might have broken in or what they were looking for? That's what we're trying to determine. The break-in was very methodical. They went through all your papers, your computer files, even your personal correspondence. It looks like they were searching for information, not valuables. A terrible thought occurred to Sophie. Detective, could this be related to my inheritance? There was a lot of money involved and maybe someone thought. That's possible. Do you have any enemies, Ms. Williams? Anyone who might have a grudge against you or your family? Sophie thought carefully. Not that I know of. I lived quietly in San Francisco. I didn't have many close relationships or business dealings that would make me enemies. What about your family's inheritance? Were there other relatives who might have contested the will? I don't think so. It was just my sister and me, and she had already passed away. Sophie paused, thinking. Wait, there was something. When I first learned about the inheritance, the lawyer mentioned that someone had been asking questions about our grandmother's will. What kind of questions? I'm not sure. The lawyer said it was probably just a routine inquiry, but now I'm wondering. Detective Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. Ms. Williams, I think you should consider the possibility that someone has been tracking your movements. The timing of this break-in right after you left town seems too convenient to be random. Sophie felt fear crawl up her spine. What should I do? Are you in a safe place now? Do you have people around you who can help protect you? Yes, I'm with family. In a small town. But detective, if someone is after me because of the money, they could be looking for me here too. I'm going to need some information from you about your current location and the people you're with. And Ms. Williams? Be very careful about who you trust with information about your inheritance. After Sophie hung up the phone, she sat in the quiet kitchen feeling shaken. Just when her life was coming together, this new threat had emerged. She thought about Nathan and Emma, about the safe, loving home they'd built together. The thought of bringing danger into their lives made her sick to her stomach. When Nathan came home from work that evening, he immediately noticed that Sophie seemed upset. What's wrong? He asked, pulling her into his arms. Sophie told him about the phone call from the detective, watching Nathan's expression grow more serious with each detail. Sophie, this changes things. If someone is after you because of the money, we need to take precautions. I know. I'm scared, Nathan. I'm scared that I brought danger into your home, into Emma's life. Hey, Nathan said firmly, tilting her chin up to meet his eyes. We're in this together now. Whatever happens, we'll handle it as a family. But what if? No what ifs, Nathan interrupted. We'll be smart about this, we'll take precautions, but we're not going to live in fear. That evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Nathan and Sophie called Detective Rodriguez together. They decided to hire a private security firm to investigate the break-in and to provide some protection while they figured out who might be targeting Sophie. There's something else, Sophie said as they made their plans. I want to move the money. All of it. Put it in different accounts, different investments, make it harder for anyone to track. That's a good idea, Nathan agreed. And Sophie, I think we should move up the wedding date. What? Why? Because if we're married, I have legal standing to protect you and your assets. And because I don't want to wait any longer to make you my wife. Sophie felt tears in her eyes. Even in the face of potential danger, Nathan was thinking about their future together. How soon? She asked. This weekend. We'll keep it simple, just us and Emma and maybe Mrs. Patterson as a witness. We can have a bigger celebration later when all this is resolved. But Emma was so excited about planning the wedding. Emma will understand. And we can still give her the party she wants, just later. The next morning, they sat Emma down and explained the situation in terms she could understand. Someone might be trying to take Sophie's money? Emma asked, her eyes wide. It's possible, Nathan said carefully. So we're going to be extra careful for a while. And we're going to get married this weekend instead of next month, Sophie added. Emma was quiet for a moment, processing this information. Then she straightened up with determination that reminded Nathan so much of Rebecca. Good, Emma said firmly. If someone is trying to hurt our family, then we should stick together. And Sophie, if you're married to Daddy, then you're really part of our family forever. No one can change that. Nathan and Sophie exchanged amazed looks. Once again, Emma had cut straight to the heart of the matter with perfect clarity. That afternoon, while Nathan was at work and Emma was at school, Sophie received another call. This time it was from her lawyer in California. Sophie, I'm glad I reached you. We need to talk about your inheritance. What about it? I've been doing some digging into the questions that were asked about your grandmother's will. It turns out your uncle, your father's brother, has been trying to contest the inheritance. Sophie felt the blood drain from her face. Uncle Martin? But he's not even mentioned in grandmother's will. That's exactly why he's contesting it. He claims that your grandmother was not of sound mind when she made the will, and that as the only surviving son of your grandfather, he should inherit everything. But that's ridiculous. Grandmother was sharp as a tack until the day she died. And she specifically chose to leave her money to Rebecca and me. I know, and we have plenty of evidence to fight his claim. But Sophie, there's something else. Martin hired a private investigator to track you down. I think he's been monitoring your movements, trying to find leverage to use against you in court. Sophie felt sick. So the break-in was probably Martin's investigator looking for information about your current situation, your relationships, anything he could use to paint you as an unfit inheritor. What do I do? Fight back. And Sophie, whatever you do, don't let him intimidate you into giving up what's rightfully yours. Your grandmother wanted you and Rebecca to have that money, and we're going to make sure that's what happens. When Nathan came home and Sophie told him about this latest development, his reaction was swift and protective. He's been watching you, tracking you. Sophie, this man could have been behind your accident. You think he caused the crash? I think it's possible. You were driving slowly looking for our address. If someone was following you, pressuring you, that could have contributed to you losing control of the car. Sophie felt a chill of fear and anger. If that's true, then he's not just after my money. He's dangerous. Which is why we're getting married this weekend, Nathan said firmly. I want legal standing to protect you, and I want this guy to know that you're not alone anymore. That night, as they made final preparations for their weekend wedding, Sophie felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. She was marrying the man she loved, gaining a daughter she adored, and finally becoming part of the family she'd always wanted. But she was also fighting for an inheritance that was rightfully hers against an uncle who might be dangerous. Nathan, she said as they lay in bed, are you sure you want to take this on? This fight with my uncle, the money complications, all of it? Nathan turned to face her in the darkness. Sophie, I fell in love with you when I thought you were a woman with nothing but the clothes on her back and amnesia. Money doesn't change how I feel about you, and neither do family problems. We're going to face this together. I love you, Sophie whispered. I love you too. And in 2 days you're going to be my wife. Nothing your uncle does can change that. As Sophie fell asleep in Nathan's arms, she felt safe for the first time since receiving that first phone call from Detective Rodriguez. Whatever happened with her uncle, whatever legal battles lay ahead, she had found her family. She had found her home. And this time she wasn't facing anything alone. Saturday morning dawned clear and beautiful, perfect for a wedding day. Sophie woke up in the guest room. Nathan had insisted on following tradition and spending their last night as unmarried people apart, to the sound of Emma giggling in the kitchen. Sophie. Emma called up the stairs. Come see what we made. Sophie pulled on her robe and hurried downstairs to find the kitchen transformed. Emma and Mrs. Patterson had been busy making decorations, and the room was filled with paper flowers, ribbons, and a homemade banner that read, Welcome to the family, Aunt Sophie. Oh my goodness, Sophie breathed, tears already starting in her eyes. This is beautiful. We wanted to make it special even though we're doing it fast, Emma explained. And look. She pointed to the kitchen table, which was set with the good china and had a small wedding cake in the center. You made a cake? Mrs. Patterson helped, Emma said proudly. It's chocolate because that's Daddy's favorite, and it has vanilla frosting because that's yours. Sophie hugged Emma tightly, overwhelmed by the love and care that had gone into these simple preparations. This is the most beautiful wedding setup I've ever seen. Nathan appeared in the doorway, looking handsome in his best suit. No peeking at the bride, he said with a grin. It's bad luck. Too late, Sophie laughed. But I think we've had enough bad luck for one lifetime. The ceremony was performed by Judge Williams, a family friend who had agreed to come to the house on short notice. They gathered in the backyard under the oak tree where Emma liked to play, with Mrs. Patterson and Emma as their witnesses. Sophie wore a simple cream-colored dress she'd found in her closet, with Rebecca's pearl necklace that Nathan had given her to wear. Emma had insisted on making her a bouquet from flowers in their garden, and it was perfect in its imperfect beauty. Dearly beloved, Judge Williams began, we are gathered here today to join Nathan Carter and Sophie Williams in marriage. This is not just a union of two hearts, but the creation of a new family built on love, respect, and commitment. As they exchanged vows, Sophie looked into Nathan's eyes and saw everything she'd been searching for her whole life. Love, security, partnership, and the promise of a future filled with joy. Nathan, she said when it was her turn to speak, I came here looking for my sister, but I found so much more. I found love, I found family, I found home. I promise to love you and Emma with all my heart, to support your dreams, and to build a life with you that would make Rebecca proud. Nathan's vows were simple but heartfelt. Sophie, you brought light back into our lives when we thought the darkness might last forever. You gave Emma the mother figure she needed and gave me the partner I'd stopped believing I could find. I promise to love you, protect you, and choose you every day for the rest of our lives. When Judge Williams pronounced them husband and wife, Emma cheered so loudly that the neighbors probably heard her 3 blocks away. Nathan kissed Sophie gently, both of them laughing through their tears. Welcome to the family, Mrs. Carter, Nathan whispered against her lips. It feels perfect, Sophie whispered back. The celebration that followed was small but joyful. They ate cake and danced to music from Nathan's old radio in the backyard. Emma insisted on making a toast with apple juice, declaring that this was the best day ever and that she was the happiest girl in the world to finally have a complete family again. As the sun began to set, Mrs. Patterson went home and Emma eventually fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from excitement. Nathan carried her to bed while Sophie cleaned up from their impromptu reception. So, Nathan said when he returned to find Sophie washing dishes, how does it feel to be married? Amazing, Sophie said, turning into his arms. Perfect. Like everything in my life finally makes sense. Nathan kissed her forehead. I have something for you. A wedding present. Nathan, you didn't need to. It's not from me, he interrupted, reaching into his jacket pocket. It's from Rebecca. He handed Sophie a small wrapped box. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a charm that read, Sisters Forever. I found it in Rebecca's jewelry box when I was looking for the pearls for you to wear today, Nathan explained. There was a note with it that said it was for Sophie for when she came home. Sophie stared at the bracelet, tears streaming down her face. She never stopped believing I'd come back. No, she didn't. And I think she'd be so happy to know that you're here now, that you're part of our family. As Nathan fastened the bracelet around Sophie's wrist, she felt Rebecca's presence with them, blessing their new beginning. 2 weeks later, Detective Rodriguez called with good news. Sophie's uncle Martin had been arrested for harassment and stalking, and his legal challenge to the inheritance had been dismissed. The private investigator he'd hired had been willing to testify against him in exchange for immunity, and it turned out Martin had been following Sophie for months, building what he thought was a case against her mental competency. What happens now? Sophie asked. Now you can move on with your life without looking over your shoulder, the detective replied. Martin won't be bothering you anymore. With that threat resolved, Sophie was finally able to relax and enjoy her new life. She set up the scholarship fund in Rebecca's name, established college funds for Emma, and invested the rest of the inheritance conservatively. True to her word, she and Nathan lived comfortably but not extravagantly, focusing on experiences and family time rather than material possessions. Emma thrived with Sophie as her stepmother, excelling in school and developing a love of art that Sophie nurtured carefully. They spent hours together drawing, painting, and creating, with Sophie sharing stories about Rebecca's artistic talents and teaching Emma techniques that would help her grow as an artist. Dear readers, thank you so much for taking this journey with Sophie, Nathan, and Emma. I hope their story of love, loss, and family has touched your heart the way it touched mine while writing it. I'd love to hear from you. What did you think about Sophie's decision to stay and build a new life with Nathan and Emma? Do you believe that sometimes the people we're meant to love come into our lives in unexpected ways? Have you ever experienced a moment where everything changed in an instant, like when Nathan found Sophie at that accident scene? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your feedback means the world to me, and I love connecting with readers who appreciate stories about the healing power of family and love. Nathan often caught himself watching Sophie with Emma, amazed by how naturally they'd bonded. Sophie never tried to replace Rebecca in Emma's heart, but instead carved out her own special place as the aunt who became a mother, the woman who helped their family feel complete again. On quiet evenings, when Emma was asleep and he and Sophie sat on their front porch watching the stars, Nathan sometimes thought about the chain of events that had brought them together. Rebecca's death, Sophie's long journey to find her sister, the accident that had nearly taken Sophie's life, and his decision to take that different route home on a stormy night. Do you think Rebecca planned all this somehow? Sophie asked one night as if reading his thoughts. I think Rebecca loved us both enough to find a way to bring us together, Nathan replied. I think she knew that you needed a family and that Emma and I needed you. Sophie smiled, fingering the Sisters Forever bracelet she wore every day. I like to think she's watching over us, making sure we're happy. I know she is, Nathan said, pulling Sophie closer. And I know she's proud of the family we've built together." 2 years later, as they celebrated Emma's 10th birthday in their backyard, Sophie watched her stepdaughter blow out the candles on her cake and make a wish. Emma had grown into a confident, happy child who excelled in school and had inherited both Rebecca's artistic talent and Nathan's kind heart. "What did you wish for?" Sophie asked. "I can't tell you or it won't come true," Emma said seriously. "But I will say that it has to do with our family getting even bigger." Nathan and Sophie exchanged meaningful glances. They'd been talking about having a baby together, giving Emma a little brother or sister to love and spoil. "Well," Sophie said carefully, "sometimes wishes come true in unexpected ways." Emma's eyes widened with hope and excitement. "Really?" "Really," Nathan confirmed, wrapping his arms around both his girls. "Our family has a way of growing when we least expect it and most need it." As the sun set on Emma's birthday celebration, Sophie reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. She'd come to this town looking for her sister, carrying guilt and regret about lost years. Instead, she'd found love, forgiveness, and a family that embraced her completely. The accident that had nearly taken her life had actually saved it, bringing her to the people who would become her world. Nathan's strength and kindness had healed her broken heart, Emma's innocent love had given her purpose, and Rebecca's memory had blessed their union in ways Sophie was still discovering. "I love you," Sophie whispered to Nathan as they watched Emma chase fireflies in the backyard. "I love you too," Nathan replied. "Both of you. My girls." "Your family," Sophie corrected with a smile. "My family," Nathan agreed, and Sophie heard the wonder in his voice, as if he still couldn't quite believe how blessed they were. In the distance, a gentle breeze rustled through the oak tree where they'd been married, and Sophie chose to believe it was Rebecca's way of saying she approved of the life they'd built together. The life that honored the past while embracing the future, the love that had grown from loss into something beautiful and lasting. Their story had begun with tragedy and trauma, but it had transformed into something magical, proof that love can bloom in the most unexpected places and that family isn't always about blood, but about choice, commitment, and the decision to hold each other close through whatever life brings. As they tucked Emma into bed that night, she looked up at them with sleepy, contented eyes. "I'm glad you found us, Sophie," she said simply. "I'm glad I found you too, sweetheart," Sophie replied, kissing Emma's forehead. "Sweet dreams." "I love you, Mom," Emma whispered as she drifted off to sleep. Sophie's heart filled with joy at the word Emma had started using naturally, without pressure or expectation. She wasn't trying to replace Rebecca, but she had become something new and precious. A mother by choice, by love, by the blessing of a little girl who had opened her heart and let Sophie in. "Come on, Mrs. Carter," Nathan said softly, taking Sophie's hand. "Let's go home." And as they walked down the hall to their bedroom, Sophie realized that she truly was home. Not just in this house, but in this life, with this man and this child who had become her whole world. She'd finally found where she belonged, and it was more beautiful than anything she could have imagined.